alpha-genesis supposition is produced using high-fidelity acoustical stereo sound. High-quality headphones are recommended.
Anyone can teach me and I can learn from anyone.
There is no right, there is only the least wrong.
Repetition facilitates proficiency.
More important than learning knowledge, is learning knowledge's limitations. The limitations of knowledge are the inability of the tool of math to predict, as predictions are the means of demonstrating understanding. If you can predict something, you have demonstrated understanding. If you cannot predict something, you have demonstrated a lack of understanding. There are three observations that are not predictable by the tool of math. These three observations represent fundamental ignorance. Fundamental ignorance is not bound by the function of time. Fundamental ignorance consists of three questions with no solutions. The first observation is origin. The first question is, where did the universe come from? The beginning of the beginning is a paradoxical perception. Something from nothing or always has been are not solutions. The second observation is existence. Existence is separate from origin. Origin happened, but the universe is still here. The second question is, why is the universe here? The third observation is position. The third question is, where is the universe? If you answer any of the three questions, I will just move the old questions to your new answers. Imagine you have before you a calm body of water, and I ask you about the origin and existence of the water. The answers trace back to the Big Bang. The Big Bang is undefined, for now. If you were to hold a pebble in your hand and I ask the same questions of the pebble, the answers again trace back to the Big Bang. Throwing the pebble into the water creates a disturbance. Moving the observation to only the disturbance and asking the same questions again provides for quantified answers derived from non-quantifiable systems. The answers to the questions are that the pebble is the origin and the water is the existence. In correlation with relativity, the water is space-time, the pebble is energy, and the matter is the disturbances in space-time caused by the reactions of the energy. Now imagine placing the pebble on the end of a string and dipping it several times into the water. One observation is that the pebble never moves, meaning that the pebble does not traverse the water before creating another disturbance. In correlation, the momentum of all energy at all points is zero, regardless of the speed of the mass. Mass is the accumulation of dimensional disturbances within the distance of direct effect under the corrosion of spacetime's equilibrium. The systems and functions of spacetime and its disruptions are of a residual nature. The residual strong force that holds the nucleus of atoms together is in itself part of the residual systems of natural law binding the entire universe. There are no actions in the universe, there are only reactions. However, life does appear to twist this observation diminutively. If origin, existence, and positions are paradoxes, where are the paradoxes? Paradoxes would involve a change in quantity. I have no measurements that disprove the conservation of energy. The conservation of energy is the fundamental foundation of stability within relativity. Origin is not present in relativity. There is residual origin present. Existence is not present in relativity. There is residual existence present. Position is not present in relativity. Residual position is present. The alpha-genesis supposition of everything offers a different way of perceiving the same measurements in math. This supposition does not negate theology. Learning accomplishes the inverse. The more one learns, the less one knows. Learning demonstrates ignorance. How can one learn, if not through ignorance? Math is a set of tools that allow one to predict and communicate. Prediction precedes manipulation, and manipulation is power. There will never be a mathematical model that provides answers to the universe's origin, existence, and position. Nevertheless, humanity's hubris will always allow for such mathematical prophecies.
The alpha-genesis supposition of everything. An amalgamation of a unifying quantum field theory, an astrophysics theory of perpetual hydrogen and quantum biology. From the imagination land of no one.
Howdy ho. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for considering this supposition. I'm just another shithead on the planet Earth, plugging along in the game of life and loving every minute of it. On this podcast, I am no one and I am everyone. I am the creator of all of the music and all of the sounds. I am the imagination land from which the script flows. So ease your seat back, take a deep breath, and free your mind.
Free your mind. Free your mind. Ease your body. Feel the sun. Let yourself go.
Greetings. I am Jonathan Bloomberg, a professor of classical physics at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. In this podcast, I will be discussing our universe and residual systems. When learning, it's okay to bite off more knowledge than you can chew.
Hello, my name is Marie Fassard, and I'd like to introduce myself. I'm a psychology student at the University of Durham in France. In this podcast, I will be investigating thought. My starting point for the examination is René Descartes' observation: I think, therefore I am. Love is kindness that never ends and cruelty that never begins.
My name is Matt Henderson, and I am the Chief Financial Executive at the East Coast Division of Pro Plumbing Distributions in the United States. I will start the podcast with an opening statement of considerations. I have found that it is impossible not to offend someone who is looking to be offended.
Hi, my name is Susan Bishop, and I am an ER nurse at Coldwell's Medical Center in
Mommy.
Lodi, California. Let
Mommy.
me talk first. Then you can go. In this
Okay.
podcast, I will be discussing quantum biology and position change outside of universal influences. In an emergency, indecisiveness is the worst action you can take. Okay, Rose, it's your turn.
My name is Rose Bishop, and I am 6.5 years old. I go to school. I go to school at Cowell's Elementary School, and I am in the first grade at my school. I start and finish the show. My mommy is Susan Bishop, and I love my mommy.
There is a well-known thought experiment that compares Newton's and Einstein's imaginations. Both are watching the Earth's orbit around the Sun. Gravity, according to Newton, is a force that holds the Earth in orbit while it moves forward, analogous to a string. According to Einstein, the Sun was disrupting space-time's equilibrium, forcing the Earth to descend toward the Sun while moving forward, resulting in the Earth's orbit. In Newton's imagination, he sees the Earth going in a straight line without stopping if the Sun disappears. In Einstein's imagination, it takes about 8 minutes after the Sun disappears before the Earth goes straight. This is the space-time propagation velocity, or the speed of light. Although Einstein was less wrong, Newton's mathematical discoveries remained valid. This supposition is not about origin, existence, and position. This supposition is about residual reactions. The alphagenesis supposition is one chronicle, has one flowchart, and is the same solution for the largest and the smallest. The very small relies upon the very large for its existence, and the very large relies upon the very small for its. If one is removed, the other will disappear. The very small and the very large gather and dance at the edge of a black hole. In this supposition, I am going to describe the event horizon of a black hole from 5 different views. Each of the views is more wrong when viewed from the other views. To realize the supposition of everything, one must compartmentalize the model into mathematical and non-mathematical systems and identify the relationships between these systems. The 3 steps used to compartmentalize this supposition are to recognize mathematical limitations, identify non-mathematical systems, and create a model and flowchart that separate them. This supposition is broken into 3 parts. The first part is an amalgamation of a unifying quantum field theory and an astrophysics theory of perpetual hydrogen. The first part represents the very small and the very large. The second part is quantum biology. The systems that underlie the first part also underlie the second part. This is all one system. The third part is consciousness and psychological awareness. Every observation has multiple solutions that satisfy the formulated equations. There is no right, there is only the least wrong. Even 1, 2, and 3 can be viewed from many angles. They represent quantity, or 1 is random, 2 is a pattern, and 3 is an established pattern, or 1 is unstable, 2 is stable, and 3 is stable resistance to change, or their established position on the number group chart. The knowledge of gravity confirms with empirical evidence that Santa's sled cannot fly. The system is heavier than air and has no lift or thrust, so it cannot overcome gravity. The same holds true with all knowledge. This supposition does not allow for time traveling. Acceleration is not time traveling. This supposition does not allow for a mass to travel at the speed of light. This supposition does not allow for the folding of space-time or wormholes other than ours. This supposition does not allow for supplementary dimensional structures outside of a singularity's center. However, this supposition does allow for several things, including but not limited to, a cosmological theory of repetition, a superluminal communication theory, a cosmic merger theory of dark matter, an atomic decay catalyst theory, a duality causality divergence theory of propagation, and a theory of dark energy. An axiom, postulate, or assumption is a premise or starting point of reasoning. As classically conceived, a premise is as evident as can be accepted as true without controversy. The word comes from the Greek and means that which is thought worthy or fit, or that which commends itself as evident. As used in modern logic, a premise or starting point for reasoning is equivalent to what Aristotle calls a definition. Define and delimit the realm of analysis. Therefore, its truth is taken for granted within the particular domain of analysis and serves as a starting point for deducing and inferring other theories and domain-dependent truths. The beginning of this supposition is an axiom, postulate, or assumption. I assert that the universe is comprised of more than one. One is undefined, but nevertheless, an obvious observation. If 1 plus 1 had become 1 just once, all would have become 1. This is the most relevant and significant observation outside of origin, existence, and position. If you held up your 2 fingers to a first grader and asked if this was more than 1, I would gamble that they would answer yes. The simplest observation is the most profound. The reasoning is that this is a special observation that allows one observation to flow into a few non-quantifiable systems and then into many quantifiable systems. One of many is the conservation of energy, which is the fundamental foundation of stability within relativity. The conservation of energy is a residual reaction. This will become clearer as I progress in the expression of the supposition. The chronological beginning of the alpha-genesis supposition of everything is that the universe is comprised of more than one. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Until the next session, extra information can be discarded at no cost. And have a good day.
Quantum biology.
Quantum biology, position change outside of universal influences. There is a fourth element of fundamental ignorance. The fourth element is life. Life is disrupting positions. The fourth question of fundamental ignorance is, what is life going to dislocate next? Life is both mathematical position disruption and mathematical magic. Every position change in the universe is like a snowflake, fleeting and never to be repeated. In physics, there is a famous observation called Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It observes that the measurement of position sacrifices the measurement of momentum, and the measurement of momentum sacrifices the measurement of position. In correlation with quantum biology is math's inability to predict life's position change outside of universal influences. By extension, I observed the mathematically loony planet Earth. A countertop is an odd observation. Mathematically, it should not be here. The matter should be here, but not in the system of a countertop. The matter is out of position. There is currently no consensus regarding the definition of life. One popular definition is that organisms are open systems that maintain homeostasis, are composed of cells, have a life cycle, undergo metabolism, can grow, adapt to their environment, respond to stimuli, reproduce, and evolve. Other definitions sometimes include non-cellular life forms such as viruses and viroids. Life is made up of nothing unique, however, life is unique. When life is disassembled, there is matter present, the same matter present throughout our universe. The carbon and oxygen in your body are no different from the carbon and oxygen outside of your body. Life systems are composed of bosons and fermions, just like everything else. There is something in nothing. Inside most living cells is the cytoskeleton multi-purpose network. Parts of the cytoskeleton structure are microtubules. Microtubules are rigid, hollow tubes, similar to the scaffolding used on the outside of a building during construction. Microtubules are used inside of a cell. Both scaffolding and microtubules are dynamic structures that undergo continual assembly and disassembly. Microtubules function both to determine the cell shape and to perform a variety of cell movements, including some forms of cell locomotion and the segregation of chromosomes during cellular division. Cells also use these microtubules for intracellular transport of organelles. Organelles are cargo, and the microtubules are highways. There are also cross streets that branch off of the highways called actin filaments. Cells have trucks to move the cargo. Instead of Ford and Toyota trucks, cells have dynein and kinesin motor proteins. There are a variety of motor proteins, including hitchhikers who interfere with the trucks. The microtubule highways have polar directional arrows for the trucks to follow. There is a vast variety of motor proteins, motor enzymes, and molecular motors. One is a high-speed machine that unzips the DNA, chops one side and flips it given that each side's coding is in the opposite direction. After that complex maneuver, the machine then reproduces the missing half of each of the unzipped halves and rewinds the strands. In the end, there are two identical DNA strands. I contemplate the cell orchestration of all these construction projects and the logistics that are able to keep them all sustainable. I marvel at each system's purpose, their individual adaptation to stimuli, and their resistance to obstacles. The construction and demolition within the cell never stops. Cells have mastered the art of cloning. All cells after a zygote are clones. Most clones are identical, but disruptions can cause anomalies. A bad change might lead to an expedited death. The death could be a cell subsystem, the cell itself, or a larger system, including the living system as a whole. Observing the tangled element of one of two tangled pairs changes the element of the unobserved. An element could be spin, photon polarization, energy levels, etc. This is not faster than light, given that all points are connected at all points. I will leave the explanation of superluminal communication to Jonathan. The point is that if we even look at the quantum systems, we affect the observations. Life, in and of itself, becomes an observer of quantum systems. The alphagenesis theory of quantum biology does not explain life's origin, existence, destination, or demise. The alphagenesis theory of quantum biology allows for the magic of living systems to change position outside of universal influences. I use the word magic to articulate ignorance. Quantum biology is a noun. quantum biology is a system that allows for the potential probability of the expression of residual awareness through the artificial collapse of the wave function to achieve a deviated state of position. There are two systems of quantum biology. One system is within the other. Living is within life. Living becomes an observer and collapses the wave functions to achieve this deviated state of position change outside of universal influences. Living manipulates chemistry, physics, and mathematics with established proficiency. The three fundamental components of all living systems are liquid water and its memory, carbon and its structural stability, and a stable astrological body. Living is the realization of a life system that artificially manipulates the wave functions to become a living system. The probability becomes a realization. Viruses and viroids are very unique systems. They have life cycles, as all other systems only have living cycles. All other living systems have no cycle after death. All living is life, but not all life is living. Rather than being a probability of occurrence, life is the potential for the residual expression of awareness, and living is the realization of this potential. Life is a virus outside of a cell that is inert. Living is a virus inside of a cell that has hijacked the cell's functions. For now, the significance at present is that life is an expression and not an occurrence. For a moment, I would like to speak outside of this theory. I have been a nurse for 12 years. I have seen the eyes of those that have passed. I could say many things to impress upon you the shortness of our lives. Instead, I am going to express some wisdom about what is important. To place your problem or achievement on a simple scale, ask yourself, will this be important on my deathbed? Most of the dead would have gladly traded problems with you. May your day be blessed with health and joy. Goodbye for now.
If you saw, then I am. If there's nothing more.
Hello, I would like to thank you for joining me in this exploration of thought. This part of the podcast is not directly connected to the theory and is superfluous. In the 17th century, René Descartes' observation, "I think, therefore I am," is a timeless observation. As an observation from the angle of physics, thinking and consciousness do not exist. The Standard Model is widely accepted today as the least strong model of the universe. The Standard Model is the theory that describes 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces in the universe and classifies all known elementary particles. Nowhere in the Standard Model is consciousness. Consciousness cannot be put into any form of a bottle. Thus it is not a localized object called fermions. Consciousness cannot affect any localized object within a bottle. Therefore, it is not a force carrier called bosons. Consciousness is not a particle, a force or a wave and is without form. Consciousness resides within the brain. Consciousness is separate from the brain. Death is the final expression of this diversion. At death, the conservation of energy is at hand and no energy changes position. Consequently, the location of my consciousness and soul is indeterminate. We are all in temporary possession of a carcass. Consciousness, at its simplest, is awareness of internal and external existence. Despite millennia of analyses, definitions, explanations, and debates by philosophers and scientists, consciousness remains puzzling and controversial. Perhaps the only widely agreed notion about the topic is that consciousness does indeed exist. Western philosophers since Descartes and Locke have struggled to comprehend the nature of consciousness. In the late 20th century, philosophers like Hamlin, Rorty, and Wilkes disagreed with Kahn, Hardy, and Modrak as to whether Aristotle even had a concept of consciousness. The ambiguity of understanding on this topic is limitless. Consciousness is a topic of interdisciplinary research in the cognitive sciences, fields such as psychology, linguistics, and anthropology have evolved, the primary focus is on understanding what it means biologically and psychologically for information to be present in consciousness. In medicine, consciousness is assessed by observing a patient's arousal and responsiveness, and can be seen as ranging from full alertness to comprehension. Mental processes such as consciousness and physical processes such as brain events seem to be correlated, but the specific nature of the connection is undefined. The human brain has many types of cells. A lot of these cells are called neurons. The neurons use axons and teledendria to connect to synapses. Similar to the wiring in an electrical device, information is transferred from one neuron to the other using synapses. The presynaptic side is the transmitter, and the postsynaptic side is the receiver. The transmitter and receiver never touch. The gap between the two sides is on the order of tens of billions of meters in size. The synaptic system utilizes both chemical and electrical mechanics to function. Synaptic plasticity is a mechanism of learning. The human brain has about 100 billion neurons. Each neuron has about 10,000 synapses. Altogether, the cortex has about 200 trillion synapses. There is enough wiring to circle the Earth almost 5 times. The brain uses chemistry and electrons in open circuits, not electrons in closed circuits like machines and computers. If any synapses make contact, the synapses are neutralized. The chemistry is vast beyond description and is interwoven into many other systems. Humanity will one day surpass those numbers in a massive computer system, but it will not matter. Inside all electrical devices on the planet are circuits that allow electrons to oscillate. The electrons require circuits to provide a potential path for the electrons to oscillate and move electromagnetic energy. Any disruption or break in the circuit ruins the circuit, and the electrons do not oscillate. The loss of the circuit could go unnoticed or be a major failure. A wall light switch is the simplest of all electrical binary systems. The down position is equal to 0 or off. The up position is equal to 1 or on. The binary position of the light switch and the output of the light switch are represented in the illumination of the light. A transistor can work in an identical way. Instead of your finger, a transistor uses another circuit to facilitate the change of state. The transistor can also work like a dimming light switch where a small current affects a larger current. A computer mostly uses transistors for the binary function. The average personal computer has about 50 billion transistors on the CPU. The transistors are controlled by instructions. The first set of instructions is called the basic input and output system. This set of instructions is responsible for the power on and self-test and therefore makes it the very first software to run when a computer starts. In addition, the instructions for the storage devices, memory, video chips, and other internal systems are loaded in conjunction with a keyboard, mouse, and other peripherals. The next set of instructions is the operating system. The operating system is on top of the basic input and output system. The first set of operating system instructions is the kernel. The kernel is an assembly language instruction set. The assembly language consists of actions like out, in, load, store, add, compare, jump if, and so on. After the kernel is the programming language. The programming language contains instructions for the programs that will run within the assembly language. The idea of an artificial consciousness or an animated object is an ancient theme. In mythology, there is the Greek myth of Pygmalion. Pygmalion was a king and a sculptor who fell in love with a statue he had carved. The goddess of love, Aphrodite, grants Pygmalion's wish and changes the statue into a woman. In the Middle Ages, a golem was a magically animated object built of clay or mud. In modern times, there is artificial intelligence. A computer is a tinker toy next to the brain. Nothing within a computer system is mystifying, magical, or supernatural. On the other hand, the brain is both mystifying and magical, and consciousness is a supernatural phenomenon. Comparing a computer to the brain is similar to comparing an apple to the Milky Way galaxy. It's not even close. Artificial intelligence is similar to a magic trick. The impossible becomes possible when viewed from only specific angles. In closing, I would like to thank you for allowing me to share this time and common occurrences that allow for a more in-depth understanding. Au revoir, and may you find natural peace.
Non-consecutives.
The most relevant element of knowledge is skepticism, including one's self.
It is not possible to talk someone out of crazy.
The problem with procrastination is that it takes no effort.
One should have great empathy and selective sympathy.
Math can be viewed from many angles, including as a cold false god.
In a verbal conflict, nothing is more powerful than silence.
Tyrants are always concerned with safety and security.
Doing good things for selfish reasons is not a bad thing.
You are never too old to play in imagination land.